Hi, Randy. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good.
Good. Thank you for taking the time today.
So, I'm thrilled to be able to talk about the movie, so thank you.
Oh, sure. It's really good. I saw last night. Very enjoyable. A different side to Emily Dickinson. So I'm curious, how did the project originally come about?
Well, you noticed the reference to the New York Times article in the end credits, and that was I read that and I was so shocked because just like you just said, a different side to Emily Dickinson, I had never heard anything like that about Emily Dickinson, and I'm always really up on that kind of gossip. So I consider myself like, especially literary gossip, I'm always up on. So I was really, really shocked. And what was interesting about that article was they talked about the spectrographic technologies used, to restore these erasures of Susan's name. But then they were like, and here's this other letter which wasn't erased at all. And they quoted this long letter, and it was so obvious, and it was so passionate. I just said, are you kidding? That letter has just been sitting out unerased, for anyone to read, and no one has talked about this before. I was really shocked.
What was the research process like for the film?
The first book I started with was Richard Sewell's The Life of Emily Dickinson, which was the winner of the National Book Award. And it was a really funny book, unintentionally, because the book was actually created because the daughter, Mabel Todd, who's the mistress of Austin Dickinson, Emily's brother in the film, her daughter, when you saw the film, you know how there's that trunk of papers that Lavinia discovers? Her daughter had that in trunk of papers in her possession because, and I don't know if they gave you a historical packet or not. The reason why I made that packet was because I wanted people to, one of the big questions that people have is, why didn't I know this story? Like, how could this be true if we haven't heard anything like this before at all?
Sort of a mystery.
It is, but it's wound up in a bunch of very practical reasons. And some of them had to do with rights issues and papers. So in the movie, and I know this wasn't your question, I should just stay on point, but I do feel like it's
fine.
15 minutes. But the point is that there was a lawsuit where the Dickinson sued Mabel. This was after Emily had passed away and after Austin had passed away. It was over that piece of land that Susan and Emily are talking about in the movie, where Susan's talking about land being given that should go to her children. And
Right.
There was a lawsuit. Mabel lost. She was very bitter, and she refused to give back that chunk of paper. And she gave it to her daughter. And then her daughter, and it included some poems and things that hadn't even ever been published. And her daughter took it to Richard Sewell, who was that scholar at Yale, and in exchange for him writing this book that told the story of Emily Dickinson as it included the story of her mother, he got access to those papers, which was like a gold mine, as you can imagine. You were a Dickinson scholar, and you were being given the trunk, what that was like. And she even made him her literary executor. So he wrote this book, but Mabel did really dislike Susan, and Susan gets a hatchet job in that book, and it seems this falsehood that Emily and Susan had a girlhood falling out and didn't see each other or talk to each other, and Emily hated Susan, and Mabel was Emily's favorite. Even though Mabel and Emily never saw each other.
I'm curious about the casting choices. How did Molly Shannon get involved with the project?
Well, I always knew I wanted it to be Molly because that image that people have of Emily Dickinson is so wrong. And I knew that if Molly played Emily Dickinson, people would finally understand who she was.
So you think she had a strong connection to Emily Dickinson originally? You saw something in Molly that made you think this is Emily Dickinson.
Yes, she has a warmth. She has an original mind. She's different. She has, she conceives of things in an unusual manner. She's one of a kind. All of those same qualities that Emily Dickinson had. The real Emily Dickinson, not the one we've been fed who is just morbid, spectral. So that was important to me because right away when her, hear Molly Shannon's playing Emily Dickinson, they immediately have to reframe how they think of her.
Right. It's refreshing to see Molly in a role like this. You know, it's not a flat-out comedy. I mean, it's got elements of comedy, but it really is a drama. I mean, I think I called it dramedy.
Yeah. We're calling it a dramatic comedy.
Dramatic comedy, okay.
Yeah, that we're coining that because I don't like the word dramedy. I don't know why. I just hate it. But so it's a dramatic comedy because it's equal parts seriousness and humor.
Right. It's a good balance. I'm curious, what was it like assembling the rest of the cast? What was that process like?
Well, I have some actors that I've worked with a lot who are my gang. I love them. I've worked with them on several feature films. Susan Ziegler, who plays Susan Dickinson, who's just wonderful. Jackie Monahan, who plays Lavinia Dickinson, who's hilarious. Kevin Steele, who was in my plays. I used to be a playwright. He was in many plays, productions of mine in New York.
Okay.
He plays Austin Dickinson. And so a lot of it was going with people I had worked, you know, who I have a artistic collaboration with, long-standing.
Good.
And then Amy, I had always wanted to work with Amy Steinmetz, who plays Mabel Shaw, the mistress, and it's been a temperature.
Okay.
So she's very, you know, that movie. It's funny that both of these movies are coming out right now.
Now, I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about the spectrographic technology that you used for the film?
Well, no, the article, that's what I read about in the article.
Oh, okay.
The article was called Beethoven's Mayor Tells All, and it was just about how advances in science allow us to understand new things about historical figures.
Right.
And the article did profile Martha Smith, who is the Dickinson expert who the movie is dedicated to, who we worked with during the movie, and also she created EmilyDickinson.org, which is now the only reason you can see all of Emily Dickinson's letters online. So I felt like, but the interesting thing, one of the ways we like to refer to the story is hiding in plain sight, because that article came out in 1998. Martha Nell Smith and Ellen Louise Hart published Emily Dickinson's intimate correspondence with Susan Huntington Dickinson in 1998. These and the letters in the archives are accessible by anyone who could have read these letters. But that other image of Emily Dickinson was so extreme that people couldn't shake it. So that's a little bit of what was interesting to me. I was like, what is the investment in that image of her? Why are people so invested? How did it come?
Right. How far back does this fascination with Emily Dickinson go back? Has this been a dream of yours to make this type of movie?
For me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did a play version in 1999. So I first told this story in 1990, which is a long time, but the interest in Emily Dickinson herself, I, like everyone else, found that image of Emily Dickinson creepy, and I actually didn't even want to read the poem. Part of my interest in this was that image of Emily Dickinson that was so creepy made me not want to read her poems. And then when I found out who she really was, I felt it's really wrong that people don't understand this, because her work is so wonderful and it expresses joy and passion and different emotions, and it's so modern too.
What do you hope audiences take away from the film?
I hope that they will. One of the biggest compliments we get is because part of what we try to do in the movie is have to not just hear the poems but experience them. So we created a movie where the poems are on screen and you have these experiences with the poems. And when people leave and say, I never wanted to read Emily Dickinson's poem, and now I want to go home and read every one that I can find, that's a huge compliment. For young people to be inspired by how Emily Dickinson persevered, you know, in the face of people rejecting her work and not understanding it. Like she is a role model in that way.
Absolutely. Last question. Do you plan to shed light on any other notable figures from history?
I do, but I'm not going to tell you who it's secret.
Okay. We'll stay tuned for that. All right. So, Madeleine, tell everyone how can they see the film?
They can go to wildnightswithemily.com to look at the latest news whatever, where the movie's playing.
Well, Madeleine, I want to thank you so much for your time today. The film is great, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah.